Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Alan's Cloud. I've been kind of out of the loop for my subscribers for the past 4 months, 4 or 5 months rather. I've been doing some traveling for work and also been working on a couple of other projects here on the side. One of them was an upgrade to my NAS. And then some upgrades to the Dell R710 servers that I run. And so I'm gonna, just kind of do an update video on some of the things I've been working on for the past few months. And from this point on, I should be starting to make some more videos. So hang in there, and if you want to know about some of the differences between, say the PERC 6i versus an H700 or an H200. Host bus adapter cards that go into the R710s. That's what I'm going to be talking about here today mainly. But stick around. All right, so talk about a couple of projects that I've been working on behind the scenes here for the past few months. My first was, I ran two different NAS machines, both with the Sigma NAS, or NAS for free is what it used to be called, software on it. I really liked it. I've run it for years. It's very modular. It was very easy to set everything up, download the configuration, be able to brick the machine essentially, or at least the operating system, reload the new version, throw that config file on there, and then within a few minutes, be back up and running to where you had the system before. So that was very nice. But for whatever reason, it wasn't playing nicely with the 10 gigabit network that I have. So I had a couple of these what do you call them, the 10 GBE cards, but they're Mellanox, right? So I have a gigabit switch, 10 gigabit switch. It also does gigabit copper as well, but the SFP plus ports in it support the direct attached copper cables. And so I've got cards in the R710s, one in my new NAS machine as well, and one in my Mac Pro, in my 2009 Mac Pro. And it works perfectly fine. But the two NAS machines, for whatever reason, were having troubles, and I just couldn't do some of the things that I really wanted to do. I wanted to use it like a SAN. I wanted to be able to set up a store on the NAS box for the virtual machines that I run in Proxmox. That way I could actually just kind of transition the running virtual machine between one node to the next. Never really got that far. It didn't quite work out for me, so I started doing some research into some alternatives, and I had already purchased a rack mountable Rosewheel case. Big sucker, but lots of airflow through it, lots of room for hard drives, and it's rack mountable. So picked up one of those, set that whole thing up once I got it. I haven't actually rack mounted it yet because it's going to take me completely deracking everything to be able to shove that big guy in there and make room for him. So that is another project for another day that I will eventually get to. But for right now, it is up and running. It's just sitting on top of a desk over here. And the 10 gig so far has been working quite well. And the operating system that I chose for that was Open Media Vault. So it being a Linux base to it, and having a pretty well-established community out there, it's been working quite well. So no complaints for me, and my hope is that once I get all that racked up and in place, I'll start to try to eventually get to where I'm trying those sort of SAN configurations where I've got the hard drive, virtual hard drive rather, sitting on that device, and just network pulling the virtual machine over the network. So I'll get there eventually. But so that was the adventures in NAS that I've been working on. And then the other thing was, right as the end of my other videos that I made, I had taken my primary Dell R710 and I had put and replaced the PERC 6i RAID card in there with a H700 card with a gigabit memory on it. And it didn't perform quite as well, but it did work, don't get me wrong, but it did throw an error for the solid state drive, which was another one of those reasons why I wanted to upgrade and get away from the PERC 6i's, because I wanted to run through the card and not do it off card like they call it when you replace the CD drive. and do it that way. You're limited in speed when you do that, apparently. And then I wanted to get some better performance out of it, and the PERC 6i that normally comes with these R710s just wasn't cutting it. So I put the H700 into my primary machine, which is the large form factor R710, and then in my secondary R710, slightly slower chips on it, but it was my primary before I bought new chips, if that makes sense for that upgrade. So I've got my secondary is one of the small form factors. So in that one, I put the H700 card, and I bought it off of eBay. There's a guy that specializes in updating the firmware on those, and he puts them in what's called IT mode. So basically, it presents all of the hard drives to the operating system directly. And you can use RAID if you want to, but it truly is a host bus adapter at that point. And I got great performance out of that card. Loved it, and I liked it so much. It didn't error out, and I liked it so much that I kept running it. Now, my only problem with that, and I stayed on that card for the past probably 5 or 6 months now, until just recently, and I'll get to that. My main problem was that because of the hard drives that I had in there, or the small form factor hard drives, I just didn't have the space that I was used to in my primary Dell R710. I've got several, 2 terabyte drives in there, and the virtual hard drives for the virtual machines that I run on a daily basis, I've got 2 500 gig drives, virtual hard drives, and one that's at least 100. Well, I just didn't have the hard drive space on the small form factor to be able to, completely duplicate or replicate those virtual machines, which is what I like to do as a standard practice before I go and upgrade any of the virtual machine, the operating systems that are essentially running in there. They're a little bit sensitive. The one is my Univention corporate server, and it runs my website, and it runs my my email server as well. And all of these other services that I use on a daily basis, and that's that reverse proxy that's also built into that Univention corporate server is something that I'm using to get back to the services on one of the other virtual machines. So I just couldn't have these things down. So it was a bit of a gamble, a roll of the dice sometimes when you're upgrading those Linux-based, systems. So I held off on the Univention corporate server long enough to where they went to a new version, and I kept getting these warnings, hey, there's updates for this machine, and I really needed to do that. But just couldn't back up the virtual machines the way that I wanted to. So I held off, and this H700 card works perfectly fine, but it threw an error for the solid state drive that I was running as the primary machine. And again, that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to upgrade and get away from the PERC 6i, was to be able to run the solid state drives, which is one of the benefits of using a proper card. So nothing against this guy. This is actually the one that I purchased. And the card works perfectly fine. Battery worked well. It came in a packaging, I think, from China, in a decent amount of time. One gotcha was that those cords right there that it came with are basically for using this card. And you can see it does have a bracket on there to put it in a PCI slot as a host bus adapter, in a regular PC. So I was a little confused at first when it showed up, but it turns out you just have to take the bracket off, and it does, fit right into the slot, and it is an I card. It's an internal card. Some of these they made to actually be put into a PCI slot, but this one, went right into the R710, didn't throw any errors, but I did have to go out and buy, a different A and B cable for those. And so sometimes those will throw errors as well, and sometimes you just have to swap around the cables. So that was a bit of a lesson learned too. So the other card that I picked up was from this gentleman here. He runs a site, The Art of Server, and he runs these, he fixes up these H200 cards and puts everything on it that you need, puts them in IT mode. Well worth the $60. I'm not afraid of doing updates and things like that to cards and firmwares, but for $60, that's basically the price of the card, and he's already done all the work for you. So Good on him. He's actually got his own YouTube channel, The Art of Server, where he actually kind of explains the differences between all of these host bus adapters. So good source of information there if you're ever curious about what it is you want to upgrade to in your Dell, which one has the benefits that you're looking for. As you can see in the description there, one of the other benefits, if you're running the H700 or the PERC 6i, you can't run ZFS. So, there's another layer of that RAID interface card in between the ZFS and the hard drives, and it doesn't work out well. So if you're trying to virtualize, say, a FreeNAS box or something like that, and you're behind an actual RAID card, it's going to cause you problems. But if you use one of these H200s that's in IT mode, you can run, the operating system looks at the drives directly from the host bus adapter. So you can run, like it says, FreeNAS, Unraid. You can use ZFS, natively, and it's supported. So I actually went ahead and bought another one of these and put it in and replaced the H700. So that went well. It went so well, in fact, that the Proxmox operating system that I had on that primary machine, I basically had to tell the new card which one to initiate as the boot drive. But as soon as I did that, it fired up, Proxmox came up, and it actually found all of the drives and put everything in place. So I was quite impressed because, all I had to do was basically get it in there, put the cables on, fire the system up, tell it which one to boot from, and Proxmox came up and it found all of my drives. It found all of the virtual machines. There was no issues with actually upgrading from the H700 to this H200, even though it isn't actually a RAID card. So it was very interesting, and that actually enabled me to pretty much, because I was thinking as soon as I did this that I was basically going to lose all of my configs in Proxmox, and I was just going to have to wipe it out and do a full reinstall of the new version of Proxmox. So it didn't turn out that way. It turned out that as soon as I did that, I was able to, if I wanted to, just go ahead and upgrade everything right there in place. So it worked out really well. So I am now, after all those shenanigans, I've got both my primary and my secondary R710. The large form factor is my primary one, but again, I've been running on the secondary. I am now back to running on the primary one on a day-to-day basis, and I had taken that opportunity to upgrade it, and I did an in-place install up to version 6 of Proxmox. So if you guys are watching this, the next video that I probably will do, I'll probably walk you through the secondary system, which is still on Proxmox 5. I'll go ahead and do that one with an in-place upgrade as probably my next video. But talking about these videos, one of the things that had kept me from pretty much making more videos is I'm very particular about it. I want it to look good. So presentation is part of it. I want these YouTube videos to not only be good with information, but okay to watch. And some of my earlier videos, as I've been getting into making these YouTube videos, you can see it's been a learning process. And they either the audio was jacked up, for certain ones, and it was awful sounding, or I was out of focus, or that sort of thing. So one of the other things that I've been doing is trying to stabilize how I want to make these videos and what they're going to look like with a quality camera. So some of the research that I had done, I went through and I picked up an actual point and shoot camera. It was I believe a Sony. It takes 4K video. I thought for sure I should be able to use it as a webcam with a HDMI out, micro HDMI out, and a capture card. So I got myself an Elgato Camlink 4K, and thought it was odd that the 4K ones are a little bit cheaper than the 1080 ones. Well, there's a reason for that. You can't upload a video to YouTube that's more than 1080p. So, and you don't stream on Twitch or anything like that any higher than that. So it's just not a really sought after card apparently. And but the other challenge with that is to use the Elgato Cam Link and that type of a capture device, you have to use USB 3.0. Well, my daily driver is a Mac Pro 5,1 that I bought in 2009 and have been using ever since, and doing, you know, upgrades here and there. I've upgraded the firmware, upgraded the chips on it, put a Blu-ray drive in it, you know, done this and done that. And I put a USB 3.0 card in there, and I couldn't get it to work. You know, it did work, but it had little quirks here and there. So I thought for sure, you know, picking up this Logitech Brio camera, which is the one that I wound up, you know, ending up using here for these videos, you know, which works quite well, by the way. I'm going to put a link down in the description for that if you're interested. But, you know, you can see it here. This is the Logitech Brio. It does 4K as well, but you know, you can play with the settings in OBS and do all kinds of things, just like this green screen. And the quality of the image that you get from it is far superior to the Logitech and to some of the other ways that I was trying to do this. But you know, all that to say, my USB 3.0 for this camera, which it requires as well, was really shaky due to that card. So this new Sonnet Allegro card showed up today, and here we are making videos. You know, got nothing but good things to say about this Logitech Brio. A little quirky at first, but as soon as I solved that USB 3.0 issue, it was good. But you know, even with the other system, the other USB 3.0 card, like I said, I tried the Sony, and it turned out the camera that I purchased, while a great point and shoot camera, we took it with us on a recent vacation, my wife and I. Takes great pictures, but it doesn't have what they call a clean HDMI out. So, you know, I was able to capture video from it, but it's capped at a certain resolution that's not great, and it also has all the camera information all the way around the edges of it, like you would see in the display. It's not a clean HDMI out. So that was a big gotcha and lesson learned. So then I moved on to a GoPro Hero 7. And I thought for sure, well, you know, we're going on this vacation. We're going to Hawaii. It was a business trip for me, vacation for the wife, a little bit of both. Can't complain. So we bought the 7, and I thought for sure, well, it does 4K as well. I should be able to get, you know, some sort of a clean output, and you can. But the GoPro really isn't meant to be a webcam. You can do it, but again, you got to do the HDMI out, and you can do a clean HDMI out. So then you got to have a cam link that's working correctly, and that's where that old USB card was getting a little shaky on me. And then also the GoPros tend to heat up quite a bit, so they'll either shut down, or, you know, there's ways to run them. I got all kinds of interfaces to it, and it's a great camera for bringing around and vlogging and everything, but not the greatest when it comes to, you know, having something up like this and running and having the lighting and everything. You know, because the setup for doing these videos takes quite some time, and, you know, you want to be able to have some of this feedback and actually see what you're doing. So the GoPro wasn't it, the Sony wasn't it, but this Logitech Brio, combined with this Sonnet Allegro card, you know, it's working. You know, the other card, I was trying it out yesterday and got super frustrated, and the camera kept dropping out of the picture. I got rid of all that footage. So needless to say, I couldn't really use any of that. But you know, I think I'm at a good place now where you know, I'm ready to begin to make these videos again. And as I said, I think the next one that I'm going to be doing is going to be Proxmox 5.0 in-place upgrade to Proxmox 6. And if you guys are interested in contacting me with ideas for videos and whatnot, you know, please, you know, like and subscribe the videos. I'm still working on my subscriber base, but you can reach out to me at any of these other, you know, social platforms. You know, I do have a Twitter account. I do have a Facebook. I don't really hit those up too much. And along with my actual website, with WordPress there, I usually have lately just been adding information about the videos that I create and drop those on there. But some of the other content I'd like to start putting on there, some of the tips and tricks that I have learned, and you know, some of the compilations of, you know, you need, if you're going to set up a Proxmox server, you know, this is kind of step by step the things that I go through and always have to look up for some reason. You know, it should be kind of obvious, but it never really is. So Again, please subscribe, and I'll try to continue to make these videos, and hopefully they'll be useful to somebody out there. So you all have a good one. Thanks.